don't know how much the sound of birds and aircraft can be picked out. The windows open because it's a lovely day until the storms come back. Although the last few times they've been predicting storms, we've gotten wind and dark clouds, but no storms, so hopefully that's the same way it is this time. So, since last week, I did a few things. One thing was I went to the different thrift store. I didn't thrift anything last Wednesday when I made the video, but on Thursday I went to the thrift store and the library, so I didn't spend money everywhere I went. And I found at that thrift store Life in the Dream House Midge, who, as you know, the Life in the Dream House bodies are just slightly nicer, slightly heavier than the regular Fashionistas articulated bodies. And of course she has the Steffi sculpt that we all like so much. I am not sure if I'm going to keep this gal or not. I am thinking of doing a sales trade list. I mean, I've been thinking for a while. I'm always thinking of what dolls I can find new homes for, but I'm about ready to. It's not going to be as huge as some of my sales trade lists have been in the past, but I am going to put together a sales trade list, hopefully in the next week. And she might be on there. Haven't decided yet. But I picked her up, and in the same store, back in the small sort of sewing craft section, this particular store rolls the cloth up and puts the rolls on the shelf, and then under the shelf are plastic bins full of craft and sewing stuff. And one bin had probably, I'm bad at estimating numbers, at least 20, maybe 50 bags of zippers. And each bag probably had 10 zippers each. And each bag was marked 99 cents. And of course, the first thing when I saw this is I'm thinking, oh boy, I can get so many zippers. But then the more I started digging through it and realized how many bags of zippers there were, that was even a little excessive for me. So I backed off and I actually bought one bag of zippers because it had this nice, well, for one thing, this is just a good color combination, rust and turquoise. And these sort of rust-colored zippers, they're really odd. I mean, there were other bags of the same combination of zipper, and I think there was another bag that was just these. So I bought this bag because it had the combination. So I don't think these zippers were scavenged from anything. There were some zippers in some of the bags that obviously had been in something else, but then cut out. So these have a really interesting, I mean, I've never thought about zippers being pretty, because zippers don't have to be pretty, but these have really interesting variegations in their color. So, and they're not too heavy, so they can be used in dolls. These definitely, even though they're so long, they're so lightweight that they will be great for doll clothes. And one of the first things I realized was this lovely cloth that I still haven't made anything out of. It's a great match for that. So at least one of the things that I make out of this, whenever I get around to making something from this, probably will close the zipper, just because I have such a lovely match. And yes, I won't use more than a few inches of the zipper, but at 10 for 99 cents, I think I can live with that waste. Plus, I have a habit of keeping all the bits of zipper that I cut off, because I have an idea that there's something I can do with it. I have another bag full of them in my zipper box. So, and you can see, I have already made some doll clothes with one of these zippers. That would be this jacket, which they're not separating zippers, so there is just a solid seam at the bottom, and so it's kind of fake separating zipper hoodie look, which I've done before. I do need to change the zipper pull because it is huge, but again, a thing you can, hold on. Okay, I'm going to have to pause this because that was the school calling to say that because of the potential for bad weather, they'll be getting home 2 hours early, which means I have to prepare to go get the child, retrieve the child from coming back from school. Now, because it's almost at that point. So, try to remember, or else I'll try to finish it up. Ian's head's Obitsu head painted by John, Oak 23, John Pickles, one of my dear old doll friends. And it's on a Disney Descendants guy body. And I wanted, well, first I got this pair of baby pants on clearance for $1 that have this really lightweight twill with a fairly small camouflage pattern, which of course is perfect for dolls, and my guilt about using real clothes, cutting them up to make doll clothes, was assuaged by the fact that those pants were on clearance, which means that people didn't want them. There were a lot of them. So I made a pair of 5-pocket jeans. I mean, I don't know if you can tell. Put the change pocket on, because it's really not that hard, it's just fiddly. So I made those pants for him, and then I wanted him to have a hoodie, much slimmer than the baggy hoodie he had been wearing, which had come from a like 2003 not quite human action figure. So this is actually vintage, a vintage knit that was in my mom's stash when I was a kid. I've always loved these colors together. The problem is this is one of those knits that as soon as you cut it, it just curls into a tube. Like in both directions. You cut it across the grain, it curls into a tube. You cut it with grain, it curls into a tube. So it took me twice as long to make this hoodie as it took to make these pants because I was fighting the curl so much. However, besides from the fact that I still need to change the zipper pull, I am really happy with the way this turned out. Although I need to glue his wig back in place because the previous hoodie he was wearing was pullover only, and when I pulled it off of him, it moved his wig. So, I need to remember that I've finished talking about Ian, and I've talked about Steffi, and I've talked about the zippers. And, alright, so I've taken those off the table. I'm going to go get ready to get my kid home from school, and I will come back to this video. We'll see if it's still sunny when I come back. Okay, actually I think it's a little brighter in here, so I don't have all the electric lights on, just the window, because the storm hasn't moved in yet. Anyway, and I've done some doll sewing, some of which worked out better than others. Like, this worked out well. I posted this on Instagram. I haven't taken a good picture of it yet. The Instagram photo doesn't actually show all the colors in the orange part. This is Blythe size. This was made completely randomly. I was going through my cloth looking for something to make for some specific doll, and these two prints were next to each other, and I thought, you know, those don't look too bad together. I'll use the last little scraps of them, which is all I had, to see what I can make. So, I ended up with this, and like I said, if I do sales and trades, this might be on it, or it might end up on Etsy, or it'll go on sales and trade first, and if no one buys it there, then it'll go on Etsy, or my spirit will be broken and it will just be given away to someone randomly. Because that's the horrible thing about Etsy, is as long as people are buying things, I'm happy to keep sewing things, but once the sales drop off, I stop sewing, and then of course nothing's selling, so I'm even less inclined to sew. And the last few years when I've tried to put stuff on Etsy, it hasn't really sold very well. But I finally figured out that's because I'm not spreading the word in the right places now that I have YouTube and Instagram, which I'm not using YouTube and Instagram as nothing but advertisements for any potential Etsy or doll sales I might have, but it might help. Of course, the thing about me is I'm likely to give stuff away too, so I made this. That worked out. Made this. This didn't work out. It kind of worked out. I mean, it's structurally sound, but the thing is, I second-guessed myself on the torso length for the doll I was trying to make this for, and I made it too short. So now I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this. This might be offered for sale or trade as well. I wanted to make it for this one. And my original idea for this doll was to make something very Marie Antoinette, very, not Rococo, maybe Rococo, but to go with this hair and with those ridiculous cheeks. And while I am capable of sewing things like that, I don't enjoy it because it doesn't come naturally to me. And I'm not one of these people that feels rewarded by pushing myself to do something new. Usually, sometimes I do. But I knew that I would not be happy making a really elaborate, sorry, messing with the adjustment lever on my chair. I don't know if you can hear that or if I'm just being weird. Anyway, so, but I thought, all right, instead of doing something completely, open your eyes, completely rococo and over the top, I'll just give her a really utilitarian jumpsuit. And I might still put a lot of decorations in the hair, so I thought, well, not just utilitarian, tacky. So this is going to be her jumpsuit. But I started with my basic Blythe jumpsuit pattern, and for some reason I convinced myself that this torso was shorter than Blythe, so I folded out the length and made this, and then I tried to put it on her. No, this torso is Blythe length. So I might try again making a proper jumpsuit for her with leaving the torso Blythe length and of course making the arms and legs short, or she might just end up on the sales list because I really think she does deserve a more elaborate Rococo style dress, or not Rococo. I'm sorry, I don't have my fancy eras clear. I'm sure some of you are screaming at me about which era I'm thinking of versus which one I'm saying. But she might end up on the sales trade list just because I don't think I can complete her the way I envision her. Or she might still end up with a jumpsuit and then on the sales trade list. So, another thing I sewed, which I showed you last week, the next iteration of the pattern for the curvy pull-on tank dress. And using this exact pattern, I made this dress, which I have photographed. It's on Instagram and on Flickr and places. And this fits really nicely and sits the way I want, and these are not super bulky at the top, and I'm really happy with it. So I scanned the pieces, it's getting a little windy, and traced the pieces in CorelDRAW, and came up with these, which there's a few things I need to tweak, like this angle is just a little bit wrong. It's close, but I feel like I owe you a little more precision. But anyway, after having a horrible sort of existential crisis about not having the right color thread in my machine to match any of the knits that I have, but not wanting to change the thread on my machine because I've been sewing doll jeans and I'm going to sew more doll jeans, so I have the gold thread in there. I decided to do a contrasting color with this blue dress, and so this is made from this. So once I get these little tweaks worked out, which I think I can do this, change this without printing it and trying it again, then I will be able to add the directions and get this shared. As usual, I will share it actually on Flickr because I know you can download it at the proper size, but I will post notices in other places of where I shared it. And I think there is a rule of top stitching that the higher contrast the top stitching thread is, the worse job I will do on top stitching. I'm not going to show this close to the camera because top stitching is pretty bad. But the dress fits, so. And I know I said that I would try to make a skater dress option, but then I realized having that stitching at the waist would make it an area that's not stretchy, and then we'd have to turn the back into having an opening and, you know, a fastening and closure. And maybe in the future, and if somebody takes this basic pattern and wants to make their version of it in a skater dress, I would love to see that. So I think it's possible, I'm just not sure if I'm going to do it. But happy with this. And this might, like I said, I have a few more things I want to sew, mainly as thanks to people who have sent me things. But then that might be the end of my nothing but sewing phase, and I might get back to actually customizing dolls, or at least changing the clothes and the dolls I have and dressing them up. Of course, like I said, I will have the sales list. And part of the reason I'm going to have the sales list is because I found an articulated Silkstone doll There is a store, it used to be called Essex, now it's called Bargain Hunt. It's sort of spreading out from Middle Tennessee. It's a salvage store, which what that is, they take things that other stores can't sell, either just because they're sitting on the stock. I don't know if you can hear my kid coughing, I'm sorry. It's that allergy season. Anyway, the stores can't sell it because they just have too much stock and it's not popular and it's not selling, or it's been returned and it's damaged and they can't sell it because of that. Like this box is kind of beat up. So this is marked at $32. But the thing is, other thing about the Bargain Hunt store is there's a date on it. And the longer the thing is there, it starts dropping 10% like every 2 weeks. And the date for this was February 10th, so this was actually 20% off of the $32, so I got an articulated Silkstone doll in person for $25.60. I couldn't resist that. And I have shown this and people say, ooh, who's she? So I'm going to show you who she is this video. But backing up a bit, I know I didn't pay a lot of money for her, but I still want to sell or trade off a few dolls to compensate for what should be an expensive doll. And I might be letting Cayenne find a new home. She's a Modern Circle Barbie head on a, I think it's a Life in the Dream House Barbie body, and I think she's on the nicer body, but I can't remember. And she is fantastic, but if I have the nice doll with a modern paint and that head sculpt, I'll be more likely to keep this one. And she is City Chic suit. And I'll probably let this suit go too, because you're probably sick of me talking about how I am not refined and elegant. And I do love her hair color, but I'm really tempted to make it fantasy too. Just not in the near future. So I'm not going to release her from this box until I have compensated for her in my mind and sold or traded off things. Because my doll shelves are getting crowded. I still haven't incorporated the Catwalk Kitties hybrids into the proper shelves because there's just no room. And the last time I rearranged my shelves was when I did the doll inventory videos, so I might combine that all together. Rearranging the shelves, filtering out the dolls to sell, and doing more inventory videos. Maybe. But, and of course I don't have the camera view screen flipped over, so I'm hoping you're actually seeing the doll and not just like her neck. So, that was the same day that I got her the same day I got the midge and the zippers, so that was a nice doll day. Less than $30 for a 10 zippers, a Life in the Dream House midge, and a Silkstone Barbie. And then the last little tiny bits of thrift. I went thrifting today and I spent $3. So I think for the entire month of March I spent less than $25 thrifting. I was hoping it would be right around 20, but I think it's like 22. So that's good. So maybe that'll be my goal next month. It's not that I won't go thrifting as much, it's just try to come in under $22. Even if it's $21, and then the next month try to come in under that. So I know we're constantly coming up with these challenges to try to get ourselves to buy less stuff. Something's going to click, and I'm going to be able to rein in the acquisition and turn that into customization. But socks. Pick these up for the kiddo. Actually, I think he would like toe socks. I can't wear them because I have webbed toes. I have 2 toes in each foot that are stuck together. I think normal feet are weird looking. I'm used to my webbed toes. So I've never been able to wear toe socks, and I think the kiddo would like these. And then, like I said, I tend to only buy thrifty socks if they have the tags on them. So this one just barely still has the tag on it, but. Can you see this? Not only is it pastels, which I need more pastel socks, but it's UFOs, tractor beaming up, flamingo lawn decorations with lawn chairs. So for 99 cents for this pair of never worn socks, of course I had to buy them. And then the last thing, a few weeks ago I mentioned that there was some wax cloth that, of course I love all wax prints, but this was sort of green and brown and less than a yard, and I didn't want to pay the price they had on it for less than a yard. They still had it. It was color of the week, so it was half off, so I got it. And even though it's not my color scheme, it's still fantastic because, like I said, all wax prints are fantastic. So, I don't know. I might still make a little shirt out of this, or more likely I will just put it in with my wax print collection. It will sit there for a long time until I finally say, alright, I'm doing something with all this. But for now, I'm going to go eat lunch. Thanks for watching.